Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. I got to tell you about another trial that's happening, which is actually shocking to a lot of people. Donald Watkins Sr. comes from a well-known family in Alabama, an historic family. His father, Levi Watkins Sr., he was longtime president of Alabama State University. Donald Watkins Sr., a prominent attorney there, not only with his law firm, but also owning other businesses. His brother, the late Levi Watkins Jr., a historic heart surgeon at Johns Hopkins University. In fact, he and another doctor became the first to install a defibrillator in someone's chest. And so I met Levi Watkins, amazing guy, died 4 years ago. But this story is stunning in that Donald Watkins Sr. and Donald Watkins Jr., his son, are on trial right now in an Atlanta federal courtroom for bilking millions of dollars from investors, including a number of athletes. Donald Watkins Sr. and Jr. have been charged with wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit wire and bank fraud. Basically, they are charged with taking loans and investments from people for specific business purposes and using the money for themselves, paying off alimony, American Express cards, going out to eat. It's been a crazy trial for the last week or so. Condeleeza, the former Secretary of State, she has testified, also along with Martin Luther King III. Donald Watkins Sr. approached both of them to serve on the board of directors of this company that he said he bought a 50% interest in, when in reality, he did not. The family still maintained that he was simply managing those assets. Today, though, the big witness was Charles Barkley, of course, the Hall of Famer. Barkley testified today that over the course of several years, he gave Donald Watkins Sr. $6.15 million to invest in this particular business. He has not gotten a single dime from that. Riveting testimony today. Roy Johnson, a friend of mine, columnist for AL.com. I was following his Twitter feed, retweeting. He was live tweeting the trial. Roy, you were in the courtroom. You have previous history with Charles Barkley, co-authoring a book with Charles as well. And again, so before we get to today's testimony, set it up because, in Alabama, in the South, Donald Watkins Sr. is a legendary trial attorney.
He is certainly one of the most noted attorneys of any color, of any race in this state, and is most noted for being the attorney who was able to get Richard Scrushy off in a high-profile trial several years ago. He moved to Atlanta and has lived various places, but there's very few people in the state that do not know Donald Watkins, do not know of his family and his legacy and his children, who are very successful in their own right. And of course, he is on trial with his son, Donald Watkins Jr., who is also charged with those same crimes.
I remember 15 plus years ago, almost 20 years ago. Matter of fact, I remember, I think when you were the founder of Savoy Magazine, I was a news editor, I think we did an article on Donald Watkins. Remember, he was talked about, people saying he was a billionaire. He was looking at potentially buying an NFL team and a baseball team. Yet when you look at this testimony that we've heard, it basically says, look, these guys were broke as hell, borrowing money left and right, paying for all kind of stuff, and that, he had this whole deal. Hey, he owned the bank. Then we hear that issues with the bank. He says, I wasn't even getting paid. Then he says, in this case, that he bought 50% of this waste company. Now, based upon testimony, we now see he didn't own any of it. He was just simply managing it. I mean, it is stunning to literally listen to this. And Watkins is him and his son representing themselves. I guess they don't have any money for an attorney.
This house of cards unravel publicly in this trial. As you mentioned, details of some of the charges on an American Express card that was paid in part with Barkley's money. We saw Hermes, and also saw charges to a communications company that went to pay for billboards to advertise Donald Watkins Jr.'s State Farm Insurance company. Just all kinds of crazy items that Barkley said he in no way would have approved. And as you said, it's just peeking behind the curtain of what many thought was a man who was worth billions. Even Charles testified to that today, that he thought his net worth was in the billions. He was a powerful well-known attorney who, as you mentioned, was talked about buying the Minnesota Twins and building a new stadium, talked about buying part of what was then the St. Louis Rams. So Donald Watkins has been front and foremost in some powerful circles for many, many years. And that was part of the sell. That was part of the draw, which lured a lot of these African-American athletes to invest with him, as well as also, I think being a prominent African-American. I mean, certainly athletes are often criticized for not doing business with other African-Americans, for not hiring them, and perhaps not investing with them. Here's a case where I think he leveraged that relationship to perhaps get them to believe in him perhaps a little bit more than they should have, and certainly to not do due diligence. Charles testified today that he never read any of the papers that Watkins would send him, papers that he had his financial advisors sign agreements to loan money to Donald Watkins Sr. and his company for purchasing portions of that company. Today he said he was shocked, mad, and disappointed, but mostly mad at the things he was hearing as they were reading emails, showing American Express charges, and talking about the things that are alleging the things that Donald Watkins Sr. paid for.
What was it like sitting in the courtroom seeing Donald Watkins Sr. and Donald Watkins Jr. cross-examining Charles Barkley about them essentially stealing $6 million from him? I mean, it had to be surreal, them talking in a third person when there are emails that's showing where, hey, can we get another loan from Charles? Can we get this? Can we get that? That had to be crazy.
Well, every attorney you speak with will tell you that anyone who represents himself as a fool for a client, you're sitting there and it's almost like an episode of Tyler Perry's Have and Have Nots. I mean, the drama could not have been more scripted. And as you mentioned the word surreal, that was something that I tweeted today and texted with various friends, that it was odd to just watch Donald Watkins and Donald Watkins Jr. Represent themselves and defend themselves and ask questions that, to many observers, perhaps dug the hole deeper for them. Of course, it's up to a jury to decide exactly between what they heard and what they're going to believe. But yes, it's very odd when you see anyone representing themselves, particularly in a trial that is as scintillating as this and revealing as this, and surprising and shocking to many.
Last question for you. Also, a former Birmingham mayor, Richard Arrington, has been given immunity in this trial. He also has testified. Surely black folks in Birmingham, in Atlanta, in Alabama, have to be shocked and stunned because they really look toward Donald Watkins as being a major, major success story.
They're shocked, stunned, and a little saddened. Anytime someone that you believe is a success, someone who is building on a legacy of their family, anytime you see that pulled back and shown that perhaps it was all a fraud, that is disappointing. And certainly to have the former mayor, the first black mayor in Birmingham history involved, he testified that he gave loans. He loaned almost $1 million to Donald Watkins and did it through Al-America Bank, which was the bank that Watkins founded. And it was just very disappointing and saddened that someone of that ilk, that historical figure, was brought into this. He was given immunity in order to testify, and he was one of the first to talk about how he was used in this scheme. And so we'll certainly see over the next few days, perhaps even tomorrow as we have closing arguments, how this is going to turn out.
So closing arguments are tomorrow?
Well, they're close. They had a few more witnesses this afternoon, so I think now they'll allow the defense to put up witnesses, so we'll see how many witnesses Donald Watkins and Donald Watkins Jr. Bring forth. But we expect that there will probably be closing arguments, not so much tomorrow, but maybe early next week.
All right, then. Roy Johnson, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. We'll quickly go to our panel here. Scott, first you. Again, National Bar Association, Donald Watkins is very well known. I mean,
can't get much better than Donald Watkins.
Considered one of the, top.
Premier.
Yeah. And to be 71 on trial, and when you read the details of this, with the emails and the money spent and the money for alimony and for the girlfriend, and she says she got taken for $600,000
over a period of time.
I mean, it's crazy.
Premier lawyer who just happens to be black, by the way. Not a great black lawyer, but an incredible lawyer who happens to be black. the stealing gets good after a while. And the more you get away with it, the more better it gets, if I can say that, more better. Okay. But let me just say this. This is what's striking about this is that it's not only they're defending themselves, but what's striking is it's a simple case to prove by the SEC and the government. You take the income, the bank statements, you compare them to what the money was spent, you look at the agreements, and then you look at the testimony of people who have never been paid back, the lack of ownership, you match them up, and it's just like a pathway to the top, right? So it's going to be pretty simple. Very sad, though.
Yep. Julianne, you want to make a comment?
I really did. This guy is legendary. He's absolutely legendary. But one wonders what role. I was reading some of the stuff, and he's tried to play the race card in some of this. He's talked about how some white people who had stolen money had not been prosecuted.
Irrelevant.
But he's been. I agree with you.
Here's the deal.
Irrelevant.
It's not just Barkley. Damon Stoudemire, former NBA player, his wife testified more than $1 million. Another brother who was the first Sierra Leone football player, $1 million. I mean, so
this is black people ripping
these
off
are
black
people.
folks, and that's what I want to say.
And they tried it in Sierra Leone. They tried.
No, they ripped off a developing country. Sierra Leone, a developing country, offered to build something over there. So no, all I'm saying is that we have to look at this very, very cynically, very cynically, and say stealing is stealing. It has no racial lens.
Erica, real quick, go ahead.
Oh, and it's just a bad day for Donald's. From Hanoi to Atlanta, it's a bad day for the Donald's.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. We talked about the whole issue of getting healthy and well in 2019. Many folks are trying different reasons, different ways of doing it. One of the things that I did starting the year off was with the Dherbs Full Body Cleanse. It was a great doing. It lasted 20 days, all fruit, nuts, and vegetables. And look, like I say, it was an easy way for me to be able to do it. A little tough the first few days, but also have a drink, a lot more water, all about getting stronger, getting healthier. And you have different reasons. Look, for me, it's all about getting ready for a golf season. That's what's important to me. I don't give a damn about the beach. And so I'm trying, Scott ain't got no golf game, so that's why he don't want to even have this conversation. Scott ain't got a beach game. You know that. Scott gonna wear that suit on the beach. All right, y'all. So out there, we want to deal with the toxicity, excessive eating, processed foods, fried foods, and all of that. What you can do is, of course, try the Dherbs Full Body Cleanse. They have 27 different cleanses you can actually try as well. So we want you to do is, we want you to go to, folks, go to Dherbs.com, Dherbs.com. Use the promo code ROLAND when you check out. You can also call 1-866-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS. And again, use the promo code ROLAND. Like I said, they got 27 different cleanses you can try, and also weight loss systems after you go through the cleanse as well. And so we certainly want to thank them for being a partner here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So again, Dherbs.com or call 1-866-4-DHERBS. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.